This is FinTech Futures at Money20 Europe, and I'm joined by Alessandro Impellizzeri of CBI. Alessandro, thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with me today. How are you enjoying the conference so far?
Very much enjoying, as we were saying before the interview, there were a lot of walking around. The place is huge, but there is a lot of interesting stuff looking around.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for speaking with me. Just to get started, would you like to quickly let us know a bit more about yourself, then we'll roll at CBI.
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently the head of technical pre-sales in CBI. Just a little bit of backstory in CBI, just to understand how we work with banks and so on. So CBI was born around 30 years ago as an office within the Italian Banking Association, managing one single service focused on corporate banking services. So we have a long history of being in close contact with the corporates and with the public administration due to that. Well, among the years, the office became actually a company, and now we're here selling also services or having direct contact with banks and both shareholders or not, but we still keep the cooperative approach that we have in a consortium. So right now we do have shareholders that are covering almost 100% of the Italian market, but we also have a lot of international contacts and international clients. Especially in the past few years in the area of anti-fraud systems. So this is why we're here now.
Excellent, sounds great. So I guess the instant payment regulation then is reshaping the European payments landscape. What is your direct involvement in the implementation of Verification of Payee, particularly within the EPC framework?
Yeah, so since I joined CBI a few years ago, one of the, main main goals that I had was to also giving visibility of CBI and of CBI in the international kind of context. So I was very involved in both, for example, the ISO working groups and the EPC working groups, as you said, since I would say at least 4 years ago. And this is one part of the story. The other part of the story is over time, a few years ago, in one of our older iterations of our industrial plans, we were focusing on a cooperative approach and I would say data monetization in some sort with a collaborative approach, with focusing on reachability of the Italian banks. At the time, we already had a system that was built for both corporates and the public administration that was doing IBAN to usually VAT code matching for corporates, for example, and we started developing a system that mainly did the same, but with IBAN and naming, and the name of the account holder, which was actually released in 2023, just around the first draft of the instant payment regulation. So just in time to get to the, to the big bomb of the instant payment regulation. So when we started in 2023 with the system, with the production data of the system, the EPC were doing the initial assessment of the solutions that were in line with the draft of the instant payment regulation. And we were among the very short list of solutions that were at least partially in line with the regulation, and that was the base to set the initial working group for the VoP, what became at some point the VoP scheme. Again, on the other hand, usually one of the stable participants of the EPC working groups is the Italian Banking Association, that, as I said, we're very close with, both for historic reasons, but also because some of the ABI colleagues are very close to us. So we followed the initial works of the VoP task force at the time, as I would say, experts behind the scene of the Italian Banking Association. And then when the VoP working group and VoP task force at the time, now VoP working group, set up a technical task force, I was actually chosen by the Italian Banking Association as the Italian representative of VoP. So it was a very long journey. This started, so my let's say official journey in the VoP working group started in February 2024, and it was a long journey until today, after more than 1 year and tens and tens of working groups into developing, a full scheme, full specification, a lot of guidelines, a full security framework that was from time to time also brought into the system that we had in Italy. So right now we are also quite lucky to have a system that is also compliant with the RVM, the routing and verification mechanism rules of the EPC.
Sounds great. And I guess CBI has been designated as a routing and verification mechanism within the VoP scheme. How are you fulfilling this role, and what value does it bring to the market?
Yeah, so as I was saying, the consortium approach, so even though we're no longer a consortium, we keep the pros mainly of the consortium approach. So when we design a service, what we do in the first iteration is understanding how we can optimize the investments for banks, so that every time, for example, a bank has, then this is typical of compliance system, not only on compliance system, but compliance and cooperative system. So every time the main goal that you want to reach is either optimization of costs or reachability, usually CBI is involved in Italy for these reasons. So right now we're focusing on building one single infrastructure that could hold most of the volumes and most of the transactions related to VoP in Italy. We're currently integrating quite a lot of banks, and we should be able to reach around 80% of the Italian market as an RVM by October 2025, and a few banks around Europe that are also on our system. And as I say, this is quite challenging because there are a lot of both technical aspects to respect, but also interoperability aspect to consider, and I will say business rules, but also legal, legal reading of the regulation that are not easy to manage if you do a single integration or a single implementation. But when you have a broad working group that works together to define common rules, these get a lot easier to implement. Well, maybe harder in the first part, but easier when you go live.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned a lot about collaboration there. I mean, you've worked with a lot of other players across various different European countries. I mean, what challenges and opportunities have emerged from those collaborations?
Yeah, so in the journey, as I said, in the journey from a premium service that we have in 2023 to a compliant service that we're setting up now, one of the main aspects that we wanted to stress to get our banks to find a common, let's say a single point of access system, and one way to, again, optimize the cost but getting the most, the best system that you could get is finding international cooperation with other players in the market that is similar kind of services. So just to mention a couple, for different reasons. For example, right now we have a strong collaboration with the French community, with the SEPA Mail solution, which is one of the main solutions in France, mainly focused on, again, corporate service on one end, for corporate verification service on one end, and a very close contact with them to make sure that the big bang that we will have with verification of payee in October will go smooth, not only within a single community, but also cross-community. And this is something we're working hard on. We will get some let's say extra news in the next few months, but we're closely working with them. On the other hand, we've worked with Swift, with their pre-validation service, to find a way to make sure that we could gather interoperability on that system, which goes not only within Europe but also outside of Europe. In this case, while, as I said, on the, let's say, European approach, one of the main challenges, I would say, is mostly the local interpretation of the rule and local business rule that may appear here and there. When it comes to a totally different market, which is usually worldwide, where you don't have a common regulation defining rules, but you have to cope with a lot of local regulation or with regulation that you don't know in general, because you don't know by definition who you will be talking to. this kind of becomes quite of a challenge in terms of defining the common rules, not only on the technical aspect, but mainly on a business and I would say regulational pattern.
So obviously we're here at Money 2020. What have you been showcasing at the conference this year? And aside from VoP, what other innovative services does CBI have on offer?
Yeah, so I mentioned at the beginning, we're in the past years and in the next years, will still focus a lot on anti-fraud systems in general. And I already mentioned, as I already mentioned, that we do have a system that has been live for a few years now, and it became quite big in Italy during the pandemic period, which is the Check IBAN, which, as I said a few minutes ago, it is a service that makes sure that you can match an IBAN with, for example, a VAT code of a company or a tax ID of a physical person. And this is this has been proven to be very useful for a few use cases, both for the public administration and for corporates, especially, for example, in case of, just to say one, insurance payments and so on. We recently went live with a service named Safe Trade, which is focused on identifying fraud patterns in invoice financing, for example. So especially useful, for example, for factoring companies or for banks doing finance services to their corporates. But now on a totally different system, and I would say totally different topic, we're working hard to launch a request to pay service. Request to pay is one of the, I would say, most interesting use case when it comes to payment notices. So you as a corporate, or in the Italian use case, for example, right now we're starting with a proof of concept of the public administration. So a creditor can send an instant and secure payment request to you as a user, and you can get a full integrated and real-time user experience from your payment notice to the payment without, for example, going for example, out of your mobile banking, which is very interesting and very convenient, especially with a scenario of international payment cards, which is not very European focused. So while on one end we have, for example, the digital euro, that is one of the initiatives that is trying to move the payment system again in Europe, request to pay with the focus on account-to-account payment will be one of the, let's say, extra tools that we will have in our community, not only in Italy, but also we will work on European coverage to allow for easier account-to-account payments.
Excellent. Sounds great. Well, Alessandro, thank you again so much for taking the time out to speak with me today. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Paul.